Best ball season is almost here. The NFL draft is just a few short weeks away, and we already have some best ball tournaments over on DraftKings, some pre-draft tournaments on DraftKings. So today, that's what we're going to get into. We're going to start getting warmed up for the summer, for BBM season, for DraftKings Millie, and for all those tens, hundreds, thousands of drafts we're going to do this summer. We're going to get it rolling here today on Spike Week. Hello, Omega. Yes, 10 a.m. I am filling in for my wonderful friend, Rob Coakley, who, as you guys probably know, typically does some Sunday morning draft streams, some hangout before everybody starts their Sunday, or maybe amidst their morning on a Sunday, and have some fun with the true sickos drafting on Sunday mornings, first of all, but drafting year round. I'm getting geared up. I'm getting excited. I'm getting ready for what's going to be an incredible best ball summer. I've probably not done as many drafts as even Rob has, with him drafting every single Sunday. So I'm excited to start to get into it. We'll pop in this draft here in just a second. But first, I just want to get a couple of quick housekeeping things out of the way. If you're not subscribed to Spike Week, you will see the tools and rankings and all that stuff there's a link in the description. It's just $40 a month or $300 a year for access to everything. We used to actually have things a little bit separated out, right? The content from the tools. Now, nope, we scrapped it all. Absolutely everything. Every single sport, right? So NBA playoff best ball is coming up. I put up a new, kind of strategy piece for NBA playoff best ball. Rankings are up for that as well. We just did college basketball, March Madness, best ball. We've got it all covered: rankings, strategy, and of course the tools, Draft Hacker, Draft IQ, everything under just one subscription, $40 a month. You get everything. Trying to keep it simple, and frankly a little more affordable for everybody trying to grind some best ball drafts. So check that out. There's a link in the description. Spike Week Premium. Of course, just go to spikeweek.com. Hit that like button while you're here, and let's go ahead and start to dive into. Let me get my screen share going. Hello. Good morning. Let's see. You can see I'm on the MLB tab here, getting ready for some MLB DFS. But let's pop on over to NFL. We're going to hop into the DraftKings $10 training camp tournament. I just drafted a team right before this, and look at that, 12 out of 12. That's nice. Pick 7. I love that the dude has Tom from MySpace as his avatar on DraftKings. So I'm working on a piece, and we're going to talk about some of this today as you see me go through this draft. As probably some of you know, if you don't, I'm much more into, kind of zero RB, hero RB, kind of those kind of principles, wide receiver, elite tight end, maybe even elite quarterback, and backfilling, at the running back position in these mid to late rounds where we can get really, really outsized gains from the running back position through just talent, like a Bucky Irving, or through opportunity or injury, like a Rashad Penny from years ago, or, many different situations. That obviously is a polarizing strategy. There's lots of conversation in the best ball community, the fantasy football community, about zero running back versus, early running back, what have you. But I think this year in particular is a good one to kind of maybe double back on that conversation a little bit, where it's so easy to just fall for what just happened the year prior. Saquon Barkley goes scorched earth. Derrick Henry has a great season. The early wide receivers are maybe not awesome. And it's easy to say, okay, I need to get my early running backs now. You saw what happened last year, right? If you didn't have the early running backs, maybe you were in a little bit of trouble. This season in particular, I think especially on sites like DraftKings, like Drafters, FFPC with full point PPR, the lack of kind of young mid to late round wide receivers with really intriguing profiles is kind of the biggest thing I've seen across the entire player pool as I've really started to dig in to kind of the nuances of the player pool, as opposed to like looking at rookies and all that kind of stuff like we tend to do in the spring. Once you get, into what has historically been kind of a pretty good range for wide receivers, right? We got Ladd and JSN and Jameson Williams, and we've gotten Brian Thomas and tons of different players from this, rounds 6 through 10 or something. And then you occasionally get, right, like a Puka or some kind of late round wide receiver that pops up. Speaking of Puka, I am going to take Puka here at the 107. There's a lot of, there kind of always are, but this year especially, I think there's a ton of awesome late running backs, mid to late running backs. There's a range of, even after we get past like the rookies and the pick your flavor, if you like Jaylen Warren or you like Tony Pollard or whatever, even if after we get past that, there's still more rookie running backs that in a loaded running back class. There's a ton of rookie running backs available later, but there's also like second year running backs, right? The Ray Davises and the Jalen Wrights and whatever. There's clear handcuffs, totally clear handcuffs in the Tyler Algiers and whatever, Blake Corums. And there's so many fruitful running backs available. You can kind of, choose your own adventure at mid to late running backs, and you're always going to be happy. But once you get into those wide receivers, it's pretty bad. So I'm focusing this year, maybe even more so than in the past, on making sure my wide receiver firepower in the early rounds is up to snuff. Now, that doesn't mean exclusively zero running back, though I do think zero running back is going to be, extremely powerful this year. I'm just pretty into the idea of really focusing in on the elite wide receiver firepower. So here's, we'll just take London. That's fine. But like, look at this. You look at this wide receiver group, right? So we take Puka. I mean, let's go to the board. Should have had this up. So we basically have elite wide receivers all the way down to Nico here, right? Obviously CMC is goes here, and JT at the end, Derrick Henry going 109, all the way down through Nico Collins. These are locked and loaded, undeniably superstar wide receivers. They just are. It's not even like, we've had a lot of the times in the past, like last year, we would get a group of kind of elite wide receivers, and then you get some guys we're kind of maybe wish casting a little bit, myself included. I mean, I frankly, I took Drake London, who you could argue I'm still sort of wish casting, though we did see a pretty solid season last year, despite the corpse of Kirk Cousins. But, AJ Brown was a mid to late first round pick for multiple seasons, and now is going in the back half of the second round. AJ Brown's a superstar. Now, AJ Brown has some serious concerns about the Eagles' pass volume, but in any game where they do actually get forced to throw a little bit, AJ Brown's a fantasy superstar, right? We know, obviously, Jamar Chase is. Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb doing what he did without Dak Prescott and a pretty terrible Cowboys offense. Unbelievable. We know, right? We know what Puka is. Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas emerging. There's all these superstar wide receivers. So the strength of the early rounds, in my opinion, is the wide receivers, whereas the strength in the later rounds really is kind of the running backs. We could argue maybe quarterbacks or what have you, but when I think about what's available to me later in the draft, I'm just like always going to prefer the running back. And so even if I do really like Derrick Henry or JT or whatever, I just, it's hard for me to stray away from the wide receivers here early. They're just so good. Let's see. Terry is actually a little bit tricky, but I think I'm okay. I'm okay with that. Actually, let's go get DJ Moore. Switch things up a little bit here. But yes, I mentioned GM to you guys. Happy Sunday. Happy Final Four weekend. Holy cow. I don't know if anybody watched or if all of you guys watched the Final Four games last night, but my God, what a night of college hoops. I know not everybody is a big college basketball fan. I am, but wow, the Houston comeback was one of the craziest things I've ever seen, and frankly, an incredible second half from Florida. So hopefully, we should have a good one tomorrow night. Go Cougs! I have an 18-1 national championship future on Houston. So fingers crossed. Let's pay for some best ball entries with the Houston national championship. Yeah. Ant says we're going to get burned again for being a 0 RB, bro. 100%. It's inevitable. It's inevitable. You know, it's going to be, Joe Mixon is going to score 25 touchdowns or something just to like totally bury us. But I do feel, I do genuinely feel like I agree and like believe strongly in just the general principles of, and not just zero running back, right? Like hero running back is kind of the same concept, just a slight pivot to not full blown zero running back. You can still get your, anchor or whatever you want to call it. But the general principles of how the running back position works in fantasy football, and like what the superstar wide receivers allow you to do and how difficult it is to find wide receiver production. Like I said, it doesn't have to actually be like full-blown zero running back, definitely not on every team, whatever. But I think this year, it's the one thing so far, we'll uncover stuff over the course of the summer and certainly over the next few weeks before really the heart of best. I'm going to try to take Rashee Rice on every pre-draft. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw on Rice, but I believe the quote was, if they played today, Rashee Rice could play in a game. And it's now looking like he may not even get suspended. This is a guy who was a second round pick this time last year, was en route to earning that ADP, was a smash, was like the best pick in fantasy probably by a long shot, and obviously gets injured, and we're getting him now in the 4 or 5 turn. That's ridiculous. Zero RB is 10% advanced by design. Yeah, it depends. I've had really, really good advance rates being more of a zero running back bro, and I've had really, really bad ones. It's just, that's how it goes. It's not just structure is at the end of the day, you got to have the right players. And I had a neutral advance rate taking 0 Saquon last year and basically 0 Derrick Henry. So it's one of those things. I think we definitely, myself included, get a little too fixated on the like structure battles, right? Like it's very dramatic. We like the drama. We like the beef. We like all that kind of stuff. So it's natural and it's not a big deal. But I do think that there's going to be so many conversations about like, oh, you're doing 0 RB again, didn't learn your lesson last year. And it's like, actually, if that's the consensus, is that now you can't do it, it's bad, right? Ooh, do I set up the Bears stuff or do I take JMO? This is a nice, let's take JMO. Just won't be available at that price very frequently. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's see. I'm with you, Shuby. I think this is not certainly not a brag. This is probably a character flaw. Shuby, we might be in the same bucket, but I feel this way about like everything, like DFS, sports betting, like right, like the bad beats. You watch bad beats with Scott Van Pelt, on ESPN and stuff. I remember some of the worst beats. They always show the Northwestern and Ohio State football game from a decade ago or whatever it was. I was on Northwestern. I was on that bad beat. Like I still say to this day, that's like the worst beat I've ever had in anything ever. We've all had bad beats in DFS or our season long and had bad seasons in best ball. And I just like feel immune to it. Like I trust I'm not saying my process is perfect because it definitely is not, but I trust in the fact I'm always trying to put together the best processes possible. And sometimes the results, you can have good process and it doesn't matter. I don't really think the process last year was all that bad. We get one season and, Rashee Rice and Chris Godwin get hurt. And, shit happens, right? Like, what are you going to do? I mean, Malik Neighbors was my highest owned wide receiver. Was that bad process? Should I have taken Derrick Henry over him? Why? Malik Neighbors is a first round pick now, superstar rookie. I don't feel bad about that. It is what it is. Things happen. Jordan Mason was my highest owned player. I can't remember I need to memorize these things. Do I feel right? Like, do I feel bad about that? Absolutely not. See, this is what I'm saying with the wide receivers. Like, am I really going to do the Jalen Waddle thing again? I'm definitely not doing Najee. I'll tell you that much. Yeah, let's just go ahead and take Waddle. Just stay on track when you're in that's one thing I do like to do in my just like general drafting. If you're at a spot, nothing pops off the screen to you, as you guys can see. I've only done a couple. I haven't uploaded my teams yet to the Draft Hacker, so exposure is not a problem for me yet. Like I'm not using exposures to dictate my picks yet. I'm gonna lean into the wide receiver firepower, right? Like if you're in a spot, nothing is like totally jumping off the screen to you. Obviously, I do really like Trevion Henderson, but staying on track at wide receiver, making sure you can always take detours at any time, but you can't have the detour back, right? Once you've taken that detour, you run into traffic, you ain't getting out of traffic. But you can always take a detour later. You can always take that next exit, right? You can always hop off the side of the interstate and go down in the gravel or whatever. But once you've gone off, you can't go back and get your place back. Hello, Olaf. Cheers. Let's see. Sorry, I missed some comments. With rookie ADP so much higher, how does that affect your late round selections for zero running back? This is an awesome question. And there's still a couple of late round rookies I really like. That tends to be the case. I'm trying to do better this year about being a little drafting with a little more humility in terms of the late rookies. Not that I want to hammer the guys that I think are edges, but I also want to make sure I'm cognizant of the fact that these guys are last round rookies for a reason. But to your exact point, I think there's a lot of veterans that in best ball specifically are pretty solid picks, whether they're just kind of like serviceable innings eaters, if you will. Back on the clock. Baker, I don't think I can do the Travis Kelce thing, guys. I'm sorry. I really don't love I'm going to do Jalen Warren. But there's later guys. I think what's happened with the rookie fever, we got the wide receiver fever for quite a while, 3 or 4 years. And I think that was like mostly right. I actually think the rookie stuff is mostly right as well in terms of kind of we've really priced up, you got to pay to get your rookie breakouts now. I think that's smart. But what that has done is like, I'm going to call them veterans, but it's not even just veterans. A lot of times it's like there's a bunch of year two, like, and they were like, might have even been good as a rookie, but year two players, Ray Davis, Jalen Wright, Braylon Allen. I'm not saying all these guys were good, right? But Blake Corum, there's, De'Ami Brown just got a decent payday with the Jags and is super free. If you don't like De'Ami, there's all the other Jags, Gabe Davis, Parker Washington. I'm missing some other names just off the top of the dome, but there's like all these, again, like veterans. They're not even veterans. These dudes, half these dudes are like 22 years old. Although Ray Davis is like 26. There's so many options of guys that, like, I don't know, like, Are they going to be Christian McCaffrey? No. So the rookie thing, it could be anything, even a boat type situation with the rookies is, of course, appealing, and that's why they go higher. But especially with these running backs, all it takes is an injury, and you can get a guy producing first round fantasy results from a cheaper price. And so that's kind of been another, your question is perfect, because that's been another one of the most notable things to me that has happened over the course of the last couple of years. Like, why was I was wrong with the Jordan Mason last year. I forget, Tyler Algier was my guy. And that's such a hilarious one to me, that we've just done the same thing with Tyler Algier, even cheaper, actually, even though yet again, he was good. Bijan never got hurt. Tyler Algier still had a couple of good games. And we know if something happens to Bijan, not just like, oh, Bijan blows out his knee, but like Bijan, gets a concussion, misses 1 or 2 games with a concussion. Like Tyler Algier is a running back one, at his price. Get lucky and that happens in the fantasy playoffs. Like, that can win you. That can be the difference between min cashing in the finals and winning the whole tournament. I'm going to do Caleb. Because tax question. He says, do you push up QBs on DraftKings? I do. Yeah. I accidentally auto drafted Josh Allen this morning on DraftKings. But the funny thing about that is Josh Allen is like egregiously overpriced on DraftKings in a vacuum, but also there's just so many more ways, right? ADP is softer. Let's start there. ADP is just softer on DraftKings. It is. It's just a fact. You also get 20 rounds. So you get an extra 2 picks compared to underdog, right? To kind of swing for things, to make up some things, to find, the Bijan goes down and you have Tyler Algier, you get a couple extra picks to do it. Plus, of course, our opponents draft quarterbacks higher on DraftKings, and you can only, zig when they're zagging so much. You still have to build good teams, even if you're, appropriately zagging. Like the DK just gives you more potential to make back that quote unquote value, right? Like if you think, let's say I take Caleb Williams at pick 90. If you think Caleb Williams should really be drafted at pick 105, it's like, oh shoot, you took him around early, but you're going to make it back. And the price is the price. So yeah, ultimately, eventually have to pay something for someone, right? Getting a bunch of stuff off the dollar meal may seem like you're getting a good value, but if it doesn't, it's not satisfying, who gives a shit? If you don't hit a home run with something from that dollar menu, Geno Smith or something like that, it doesn't matter. You need to win the tournament. So I definitely pull quarterbacks up. Robert Griffin the Turd, which is just such a hilarious name. The receiver cliff feels much later on DraftKings this year. 2 years ago, Bateman at 82 is the cliff. This year, Bateman at 123 seems like it. I think that's a fair point. I actually think that whole bucket, I think we're about to hit it. Yeah. See, I'm like only lukewarm on this group of wide receivers, and that's where we might disagree a little bit. Jonnu, I could set the Dolphins thing up and run back Jonnu. Let's actually, with Waddle, let's actually do Jonnu. Kind of Dolphins get better, but maybe Tyreek is falling off type situation with Waddle and Jonnu. Just get that little secondary correlation going there. Obviously, if I take two, I take two. That's fine. But I agree with this. Jalen Wright in the 170s seems like a steal. I'm with you. I think that there's a whole bucket of those running backs. Let me just scroll down, right? Like Jerome Ford, maybe a tick higher, but Jerome Ford might just be the starter for the Browns. Of course, they probably will draft someone, but like that's how the NFL works. You don't go into a season with no competent running backs unless you're the Dallas Cowboys of last year. So, Jerome Ford as a committee back with the Browns and possibly just the starter with the Browns, pick 150. That seems good. Garendo, right? Jordan Mason is gone. Eli Mitchell is gone. Garendo showed to be talented last year, 152, right? Trey Benson, Ray Davis. I'm not trying to scoff at Rico Dowdle, but Trey Benson, Ray Davis, Jalen Wright, Tyler Algier, Blake Corum, right? Like all these, Braylon Allen, like Justice Hill, Derrick Henry's backup, like Will Shipley, Saquon's backup, like all of these guys just free, totally free. A few years ago, we had to pay like 7th round prices on Tony Pollard as Zeke's backup. And now we're getting all the, first round running backs, their backups are free, like completely free. That's crazy. That's crazy. This is funny. I like Marshawn Lloyd and Kendrick. I mean, as much as one can like them, I think that they're pretty good picks. Same thing, like young players that we have liked to varying degrees, depending upon your Caleb stance, your Kendre stance. I'm looking at the board here, seeing Bears. Let's see. Yeah, that stinks. My tight ends got wiped out. I really do like Marvin Mims. I'm gonna take me some Marvin Mims. Let me go to no, let's just do this. I was considering a little tight end double tap there if Njoku came back, because I'm kind of gonna be back in on Njoku. I think there. But naturally, he goes 2 picks after me. But the Marvin Mims, again, similar to the Browns, I would expect. I'd expect the Broncos to upgrade the wide receivers, right? But they need to. That like Courtland Sutton and Marvin Mims can't be the only wide receivers on a functional offense. Marvin Mims break out down the stretch. I think as against similar to his second year player last year, 2nd round pick, and growth is not linear. We never really know when these things are going to happen. Was he always as good as he showed down the stretch, or was Sean Payton just, was he always that good, or was Sean Payton that right about not playing him and he finally grew? I don't know, but they certainly unleashed him down the stretch. And even if they bring in a rookie, this rookie class is not anything to be super scared of. They bring in a tight end, great, make the offense better. 2nd year Bo Nix, 3rd year Marvin Mims, Courtland Sutton still hanging on. Good question. Is Vele live or most likely replaced? I would say most likely replaced, but it's possible. It's certainly possible. They may just really like him a lot more than I do, or a lot more than we do. All right, so quarterback's still looking all right. Dak, I got Penix there. I am just going to add a couple of these guys in the queue. Let's get to running back for sure. Javonte. I really am not excited about Javonte, but I do think it's a reasonable fit here. And I think he's worth some exposure, undoubtedly. Just if we're wrong, right? A couple of years ago, Javonte Williams was a 2nd round pick before he tore up his knee. I loved him as a football player. He was really bad last year, but he does all of the things. Even still last year, will do the things that can get him on the field and get him scoring fantasy points, right? Pass protect, play on passing downs, play at the goal line. It could be gross, and you could still get a useful fantasy asset out of him if he returns to, even close to what past Javonte was. He's a stone cold smash, right? Look what Rico Dowdle was really good for the Cowboys last year, even when Dak was hurt. So, if I'm not saying Dowdle was quite good, actually. I'm not sure if Javonte will be that. How can anyone be sure what Javonte will be? I think the most likely scenario, as usually is the most likely scenario, is that Javonte is just not very good anymore, because it's hard to be as bad as he was last year, but still actually have a good football player somewhere underneath the pads. But it's possible, right? He just needed another year to recover. Maybe the Broncos thing wasn't a fit. Who knows? I think he's another reason to be, taking some 0 running back teams. He reminds me of frankly of Rico Dowdle, but also of like the Devin Singletaries of the world that people are just so grossed out by. And it's like, so the worst case scenario is like multiple useful games. Like that's the worst case. That's pretty good for around 11, 12 running back. The best case is like this dude's like a top 20 running back that you're getting in the 12th round and is consistently churning out good games for you. Like that's the upside. But I guess the real upside is, maybe technically higher than that if Javante's like really back. But like that's the thing is this isn't season long managed league. You don't have to choose when to start these guys. And there's utility to just being useful. And I've tried to lean into that a little bit more than trying to hit the nuts on every single pick I make in every single draft of trying to hit home runs. I don't want to bunt. You know what I mean? I still do want to swing for home runs about as much as wow. So Dak, Penix, Tua, McCarthy here. Oh God, Pitts and Loveland. But this is just my peak running back zone. I do really like Tajay. Let's do Tajay. Penix, Tua, McCarthy. I'm gonna put some of these quarterbacks in the queue. I'm sorry, I'm not a Cam Ward lover, so forgive me for that. But God, it's so bad. Quarterback is just so bad. This is another reason to do what yeah, exactly. Passing on quarterback when you need it on DraftKings is very dangerous, and I'm towing that line as we speak right here. That's why I was putting these quarterbacks in the queue, because if you don't like let's just I think Geno is kind of the last spot here where I think you can feel really comfortable about what you're getting. After him, and some people may like Cam Ward more than me, or Bryce Young, whatever. That's fine. Richardson, who knows? Is he even starting? Right, Derek Carr, not super useful anyway. And we saw what happened last year. There goes Geno. Rodgers, will he even play football? Russ, assume Russ is going to start, but he's not very good, and that's a pretty potentially disastrous situation, right? Jackson Dart, is he even playing this year? Daniel Jones, Kirk Cousins, Jameis Winston, Joe Milton. Kenny Pickett. Is Kenny Pickett actually going to be the Browns starter? That seems crazy. It's bad. It's really bad. So that's a different animal. That's a different beast than what we've dealt with in the last couple of years at quarterback, where you kind of always had options, right? I mean, you always had options. It wasn't necessarily comfortable. It might have been, damn it. There goes Penix. Now I'm going to have to take one of these slapdicks. I'll just do Bryce. God damn it. I was sitting here talking, just being like, all right, just give me Penix or Tua, and we're good. But Bryce it is. That's fine. But that's got to be the perfect lesson of when you're not careful at quarterback. It's not that I wasn't paying attention to it. It's just, if you're not careful at quarterback, you can easily build a team that's, like, frankly, not dead, but shit, man. You could build a team that's pretty damn close to dead. And you got all this other amazing value, right? You got the wide receiver firepower we were talking about. You got some sick fallers at running back or tight end or whatever. And it's like, that's great. It looks cool. Your CLV on this team, or your ADP value. You pull up our draft IQ tool, you're looking through your exposures, and you're like, look at all this ADP value I keep getting in my drafts. And like, that's great, but your team functionally cannot win the tournament because you fucked up the quarterback position. And it's like, that's the balancing act that we're always playing is you want to get the best value, you want to create the best team, you want to jam the best picks all together as much as possible onto a team, but you also just still have to build good teams. Yeah. South says you better queue up Daniel Jones. So I'm stuck. This is a Caleb Bryce team. If I can't live with just two quarterbacks with two number one overall picks, two of the last few number one overall picks at quarterback, I mean, what's even the point? Literally, 2 number 1 overall picks at quarterback. If we can't stick to just 2 there, and I'm not sure there is, yeah, I guess Derek Carr, possibly Shador. Like, there's like hardly even a starting quarterback left in the player pool. It's crazy. But the nice thing is, I got 7 wide receivers. I'm probably only going to take 1 more. So I do need a tight end. I'll toss some of those guys in the queue just to there goes Dowdle. So Garendo's still here, right? Yeah. Let's see if and there goes Garendo. This is not going well. I'm not having a lot of fun here. I did a draft right before this and I took Trey Benson. So I'm going to take Ray Davis on this team. I love both of them. I think they're both awesome picks, especially on this kind of a team. Same with Jalen Wright, right? Same with all these guys that we talked about before. So, no, nothing profound. I like them both. Give me both. I will be trying to get teams with a lot of these guys, right? Pull up Trey when we get to the summer. It's not that you can't do it now. I'm just talking and drafting. Pull up, one of those guys a couple rounds. Try to get 3 or 4 of these Jalen Wrights, Algiers, Ray Davis, etc. on the same team, assuming that they end up they're still kind of stuck at these similar ADPs. Yeah, I don't actually think Derek Carr is bad on DraftKings. It's also not good. But this happens, like you said. Like you got to have a backstop. Can't throw it past the catcher and watch the ball go for miles and miles. You got to take a quarterback eventually. You got to stop the run, and sometimes Derek Carr is necessary. It's easy to happen. Yeah. I'm not a big Jackson Dart fan as a prospect, so that's certainly skewing my take on that, but I think he's fine. I'm not sure he's going to be playing in the NFL this year, but he could be. It's possible. Some teams are pretty needy for quarterbacks, so we'll see in a few weeks how the Jackson Dart situation shakes out. I don't think I finished this thought, but RGT was talking about the wide receiver cliff. I actually kind of think I'm thinking about it in a couple different ways. It's like a tiered. There's multiple cliffs. I think once you get, let's just look at the board here. Like in this, like we're looking at the 6th round here. Like again, like I like T-Mac. I think Juwan Jennings is fine. I took Waddle. He's fine. Like, but I don't know. After, again, pick your flavor. After Godwin or Olave or J-Mo, after something in this area, it's a little sketchy. There aren't, outside of T-Mac, and then like Travis Hunter, those are rookies. That's cool. But there's no, right? There's no like real there's no JSN here. There's no, J-Mo's gone, right? There's no J-Mo. There's no, there's a couple of rookies, and then like these like Cortland Sutton, DK Metcalf. Like I like Rome, but like Calvin Ridley, like these guys, there's no real juice in that. You're kind of just paying a premium for. Speaking of, I just see Trey Harris at the top, so we are going to go ahead and round out our wide receiver room with Trey Harris. I do need another tight end, and I do need a bunch of running backs. But the interesting thing about this team is, clearly needs running back juice, but Jaylen Warren has outs to being starter. He may just be the starter in week 1. We'll see how the running back room shakes out in Pittsburgh, and same thing with Javonte, right? And Tajay is going to play, and Tony Pollard is kind of the 1A, but there's outs, not even just outs. This team probably just has early season running back production. So even it's not something I worry about much, but even if you are worried about that, right, you probably just have the Steelers and the Cowboys starting running backs on this team with a loaded wide receiver room and Jonnu and, at least one good quarterback. Well, maybe we'll see. Hopefully Ben Johnson can turn Caleb into a good, like the Zay Flowers line or the Chris Godwin line or something. There's like that first line, and then there's that big old group of mush, that I was just kind of outlining. And then you get to, I don't know, like you said, what is it? Pittman, Mims, Bateman. Then maybe you get to Bateman again, right? There's another, the new Bateman. The Bateman line has now moved a few miles down the road, but there's like the Godwin line and then the Bateman line. So it's like a 2-tiered fall off that, like, once you get past that Bateman line, like, I don't want to be counting on they're all flyers, right? I don't want to be counting on production from Jaden Higgins or Xavier Legette or Keon Coleman or someone like that. Whereas I can probably find it at running back. Like, not guaranteed, but it's possible. Sheesh. Tight end is absolutely terrifying as well. Yeah, like those guys are in that conversation with that Bateman line. However, it doesn't have to be actually Bateman. It could be Shaheed or Mooney or something like that. But there's something somewhere in there that's the line, right? Damn. I can't believe I'm about to take Dalton Schultz, I think. No Diggs, no Tank. I know they got Christian Kirk, but I'm just going to take this. Had some much better games down the stretch. I'm still into buying the Texans offense. That is not a fun click, but tight end gets pretty. But there's not a lot. I know Fannon's down here who I like, but there also isn't like Jawan Johnson. How is he any different? Chig, how is he any different? Like, they're a little bit better, I get. Like, you could make a case for Chig efficiency wise, but it's not really any different. And I'm more intrigued by buying the dip on the Texans offense than I am buying a Titans breakout, with Cam Ward or something like that. Yeah, I think it's probably Schultz line. Like I said, someone might say Chig is the line instead of Schultz. That's fair. But there's a line somewhere there too. Whereas, everybody has their own flavors at the running back position, but I still got a bunch of bullets in the chamber at running back. You know what I mean? And we're just going to close it out with a bunch of running backs. Turn this into a 2-8-8-2 team because I need the running back juice. And there isn't anything at, someone would say, well, you got 20 rounds. Why don't you draft a third quarterback or a third tight end? You absolutely could, especially on these teams. I don't have that strong of quarterback or tight end. If somebody wanted to say they think they need a third at the onesie positions in this team, that's fine. But there just isn't anything back there. They're also, you can't just take them to take them. There needs to be some like functional use for the player. And I don't, especially like, I understand, I could stack JT Sanders with Bryce Young. It's kind of, but I don't want JT Sanders on teams. Like I just don't. Theo Johnson's like in the mix. Like some of these guys are in the mix as picks, but I don't want to force them just because I feel like I need to take a third tight end. What this team really, really needs is running back juice and flex juice, right? Just assume Jonnu has hit again. Just assume Caleb Williams has hit, and let's keep it moving. Yeah, Tebow says, whenever I feel like I'm not having fun in a draft, I'll fire up another one right away to wash away those feelings. I'm with you. Yeah, definitely. Christian said Cousins could be traded to the Browns for sure. That's part of the reason why I like Njoku quite a bit and why I think Ford is pretty appealing. This is when we go get my guy Will Shipley. What an egregious price on Will Shipley, by the way. So I'm not going to go like crazy full deep on Will Shipley. I'm probably just going to literally write a piece about Will Shipley and just like players like him. But what doesn't make sense is Saquon is not going to play every single snap. Kenny Gainwell played last year. Will Shipley played a little bit down the stretch last year. So there's going to be running back points that are not Saquon Barkley on the Eagles. Will Shipley was a guy who we were somewhat drafting last year, hoping he would usurp Kenny Gainwell. He, of course, did not. But Kenny Gainwell is gone. Kenny Gainwell's in Pittsburgh. And Shipley's a potentially like pretty darn talented guy in the same situation that Saquon in, which is making him, the 102. He catches passes. He showed some juice, obviously, in that NFC Championship game. And if the Eagles are going to be so good that Saquon should go at the 102, and AJ Brown is like a late second-round pick, and Devontae Smith is a fourth-round pick, and Goddard is undraftable. I'm exaggerating, but very cheap. If they're going to be so good again and run and play from ahead so much that AJ Brown like should be that cheap, Will Shipley's going to have truly a bunch of useful fantasy games. I'm going to do Eli Mitchell. I feel like I like the Justice Hill thing as kind of load up on the backups of all the elite guys, right? Like I love that, like give myself shot, like compound my 0 running back team with Shipley and Algier, right? And Justice Hill and the backups to the elite superstars. It's kind of a way to, like I said, to take your bet a step further. But again, I took Justice Hill this morning and just mixing that up a little bit. But I like him too. Do you think Dylan becomes? Yeah, be careful. AJ Dillon they might bring out of the grave. I mean, he was so ungodly bad for multiple years, but especially the last couple. That, I mean, if Shipley can't take that job, like AJ Dillon might not make the team, and if Shipley can't fend that dude off, like okay, like he sucked. It is what it is, and sometimes that happens. Sometimes you bet on the younger guy and he can't hold off AJ Dillon. It does happen, but we can't be worried. We can't be worried about really, really bad football players taking guys' jobs, or just like totally inconsequential football player. Like Kenny Gainwell landing with the Steelers. It's like, were they just not going? They weren't gonna like assign an XFL guy to fill out the rest of their roster. Like teams want competent football players. They're trying to win now. If you can't fend off Kenny Gainwell, like you're just not very good. And maybe that is the case for Warren or whoever they draft, but we can't get our panties in a bunch over every single running back signing. You know what I mean? It would make sense to bring old Dylan in there. Yeah. Get Saquon out of there and put Dylan in there and let his big ass take those snaps, pushing Jalen Hurts across the goal line. Do you think Keaton overtakes Justice Hill this year? No, I don't. I think it's very possible that Keaton plays a little bit more. He just doesn't have the skill set that Justice Hill has. Keaton is like in basketball, or let's use baseball since it's baseball season. He's like a lefty specialist out of the bullpen, right? He can't really be your closer, and he's definitely not a starting pitcher. But he can come in, and he's a lefty who can get left-handed hitters out, right? That's the one thing he can do. Keaton is the home run hitter. Come in, give me the ball, see if I can take it 60 yards to the house. He can't pass protect. He's not even really a good receiver. And that's what Justice does, right? Justice is their third down back. When it's third and long, when they're in the 2 minute, and it's not Derrick Henry, it's Justice Hill, and that's not Keaton's skill set. So it's always possible the players get better, but he's never shown that. And then he's fresh off that kind of devastating knee injury that he only sort of got back from. Now we got to go get my other guy, Taj Brooks. I cannot believe Taj Brooks is like a last round pick in these drafts. That's absolutely ridiculous. But my only concern with Taj Brooks, his production is off the charts. He does everything. He catches passes, he pass protects, he runs at the goal line. He's an efficient runner. He was getting 35 touches a game at Texas Tech for several years. It's an exaggeration, not every game, but go check the workload on Taj Brooks combined with the efficiency in a not that great offense. But if you watch him, certainly if you've watched him over the last few years, it's like, I'm not sure that I'm not sure he's got the juice to be the NFL guy. And he tested really well. He's not Xavier Worthy straight line speed, but he tested exceptionally well, at least relative to what my expectations were going to be. I think Taj Brooks is probably the most mispriced rookie running back. Not the most mispriced running back, the most mispriced rookie running back. Now that we know he's actually like an NFL athlete, which was the concern. Oh, Zach said, do you think K9 should get a boost with Kubiak as OC in Seattle? ADP seems low. Yeah, that's a tricky one because on one hand, what you just said about Kubiak is chef's kiss, spot on. Like, you're telling me I'm getting this pretty darn talented runner in a Kubiak op? Did you see what he did with Kamara and the shitty Saints? Yeah, like, what are we doing? On the other hand, Zach Charbonnet is there, who we don't know. I know that they're talking about, they love Walker and they're going to load him up and all that. So I'm not like crazy concerned with Charbonnet, but Charbonnet playing passing downs. Is Charbonnet taking how much? Like, he's going to play how much? I don't know. And then the Seahawks have just like house of cards level risk. You know what I mean? It could be really bad for Seattle. The offensive line is terrible. I'm going to put Mullings in the queue. That's what we wanted to do. Jordan James. I'm going to do Jordan James. I'm a little higher on Jordan James than Khalil Mullings. Rookie running back out of Oregon. James was freaking awesome. Go look up James' second to last season playing alongside Bucky Irving. He was like better than Bucky. A little less workload, but they shared the backfield. And James was awesome. He's a slightly less efficient this year as the man in the backfield in Oregon, but it wasn't the Bo Nix offense. I don't know. I think he can still play. He can also really do it all. I also think, as you see, I'll read this team off, and you can see the running backs having a little bit of that rookie juice, the rookie, lottery ticket upside, as opposed to kind of taking another veteran, right? You could take P. Ryan or whoever whatever you like, Gainwell, or you like this veteran back here. Those guys have utility. I took a bunch of them on, I'll take on other teams, and I've taken them, some of them here on this team. But I think when you start to blend the profiles together, this team really requires, when you have Javonte and Warren and Eli Mitchell and that kind of stuff, you really want to Tajay even try to swing a little bit for the fences at the end. And luckily for me, like, I know that those running backs, the Tajes and the Jordan Jameses, and there's rookies back there that I really like, actually. They would have been pretty highly ranked in last year's running back class. This year, they're just a little bit lower because it's a really, really good class. So I like those guys. So I'm willing to kind of mix and match back there as is necessary for each team. Omega says, have to start your running back run earlier on DK because even the early running back drafters still start drafting. That's true. It's the same thing as we talked about with the quarterback and also with like the tight end Schultz line. But it's really all of the positions is, you're playing this game of when how do I get in and out of each position and not fall off the map and not lose out right on whatever, not have Daniel Jones as my QB2 and not have whoever as my tight end 2 or tight end 3 that makes me feel really, really uncomfortable, but also still have the wide receiver firepower we talked about. And also, it's like you're trying to do all that, in 45 minutes while you're constantly on the clock for 30 seconds. That's the fun, but it's also the difficult part of drafting is a skill. It's not just like, I'm a running back, bro, and I got the best rankings, I'm going to come in and dominate this. It just doesn't happen, right? You see people come in and think they can just auto draft off rankings or whatever, have their player takes and win that way. It doesn't work that way. You do have to be able to come into a room and kind of manipulate that room and read the room. And when do you take a guy around early? When do you really push a guy? All that kind of stuff. It's a skill. It's a learned skill. So let's run down this team really quickly. Make sure I didn't miss any of those comments. Looks like we're good. So we started out of the 107. Just impossible. I understand some might like Derrick Henry or something more than me, or even Genty or CMC. I do think it's kind of funny that Christian McCaffrey is now a lot cheaper than he has been for a long time. But I mean, it's just impossible to pass on one of these wide receivers. If you like CD or JJ or Puka or Neighbors or BTJ, Amon-Ra, Nico, Like basically though, through that Amon-Ra, Nico, BTJ grouping, I just don't really know how to pass on those guys. Then you even get to Brock Bowers, right? Like if Brock Bowers fell to me, I would take him in the second round. But we go Puka, take Drake London. I do think it's more wide open. London, AJ Brown are very close to me. Ladd is very close to me. Tyreek, T. Higgins, even JSN is very close to me. But we took a little Drake London. Also gives me some, outs to that Penix stack later. DJ Moore, another one I'm very excited about with Ben Johnson and second year. Caleb, and then Rashee Rice is just the best, at least the best early round pick on the board, maybe the best pick on the board, I think, all around. JMO, nice slide for JMO. So we just keep hammering the wide receivers, right? Slide for Waddle. Let's take Waddle, even though it makes me feel sick. Then we start to get into the running backs, right? So we start with 6 wide receivers. Okay, it's time to start looking at some other positions, especially because that fall off had occurred, like we just talked about. The best wide receiver on the board here was Jacoby Myers or Travis Hunter. Ayuk, I guess, off the knee injury, right? But it's pretty bad. A wide receiver there. So let's get into Jaylen Warren. Take Caleb Williams to stack him with DJ Moore. Took Jonnu in the next round at tight end. I am, of course, like everyone, a little worried if the Jonnu thing was a flash in the pan, but I've always believed in Jonnu's talent. I think the fit is perfect. And even if he takes a step back, I think he can be a totally useful fantasy asset. It also made sense on this team, right? Kind of a little mini correlated bet with a bet on the Dolphins taking a step, Waddle and Jonnu. Maybe the offense kind of reverts back to it showed flashes of this, of course, but it becomes a little bit more explosive and scores a few more points this season with a couple of pass catching Dolphins. And also there's outs to, those guys take on a bigger role. Tyreek's hurt or something like that, right? Correlating them can help there. Dive back into wide receiver with Marvin Mims. I would have taken Jordan Mason. You see Jordan Mason on your screen here. Went one pick before me, Jordan Mason, another one of my favorite running back picks on the entire board. Kevin O'Connell even coming out and saying, he's going to be the hammer at the goal line. He's the 1B to Aaron Jones. They got to keep Aaron Jones healthy. They haven't had a guy like Jordan Mason. Like the hype machine is kind of crazy. And I think Jordan Mason's a really good football player. And I want Vikings. I trust in Kevin O'Connell. Look what he did with Sam Darnold last year. But we take Marvin Mims, Javonte Williams, Tyjae Spears, kind of getting in these air quotes veterans. These guys aren't old, but veteran running backs with defined roles. Some upside for sure, but maybe not the total home run swings. We get to those in a little bit. Really wanted Michael Penix. We discussed earlier the quarterback stuff. Dak, Penix, Tua, Geno, all that kind of group was what I really wanted. But then I really lost out on a run between my Tyjae and that Bryce pick. 6 quarterbacks went off the board. So that's the thing. Are you willing to play that game? Are you, or do you just take the quarterback? I think that's something that we got to keep in mind on DraftKings. So we take Bryce, but it worked out just fine. I do think I could have possibly, taken that quarterback in that Tyjae spot, for future reference. If I 2v2'd whatever running back I would get right there, like if I put Garendo, right? If I take Dak or Penix or Tua, right? I take Dak or Penix or Tua or something in that Tyjae spot, and then I put Garendo instead of Spears. I think that 2v2 is better. So again, something to think about for future reference. But I mean, I still love the rest of this group. This is my running back sweet spot, right? Ray Davis. I don't know if you guys know this. I don't know if I've talked about it on show other than when Pat Corain and I recorded our rookie wide receiver marathon episode. I love Trey Harris. I think he's going to be a stud. I think this price is ridiculous. And we'll just leave it at that. Dalton Schultz, the Schultz line at tight end. Gross, but hopefully effective is the Dalton Schultz TM. Will Shipley, Eli Mitchell, Taj Brooks, and Jordan James close out a fun 0 running back room, but maybe a little more veteran laden 0 running back room with a couple rookie flyers. Kind of put that blend all together for my favorite 2882 build on DraftKings. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me instead of Rob. Give this a thumbs up. Drop a comment please, we would love comments. We would love likes. We would, of course, love subscribes. Trey Harris, definitely go Burr. Too many AJ Dillon mentions. Amen to that. Be on the lookout. We're back. This was kind of my, the February and March are a little bit slower. I enjoy my college basketball, get ready for baseball and NBA playoffs, because I know starting at the NFL draft, we're going to be drafting NFL best ball teams around the clock for months and months and months, even into NFL playoff best ball. This is sort of my kickoff, if you will, to like really peak best ball season. So be on the lookout. Hop in the Discord. There's a link down there. You can get notified there, as well as, if you're subscribed to the YouTube channel, when shows are coming. Because this week we're about to start get rolling hot and heavy. So go ahead and, again, hit that subscribe button, hop in the Discord, and I will see you guys later this week. Peace. Here's Rob to let you know what to do.
Woo! Those were some spicy takes. Want to stay up to date with all of the other spicy takes we're going to have over here at Spike Week? Why don't you press that subscribe button below? If you turn notifications on, we draft a team, boom, you know about it. We have another spicy take, boom, you know about it. You can be there. You can draft with us. You want to stay up to date? That's how you do it. All right, we'll catch you later next time here at Spike Week.